All right. Welcome, everybody, to our live webinar this morning on Saturday. We are going to be talking about the leadership resume and interview. So many of you who are trying to become principals or assistant principals, you may be interested in this webinar we are doing today. So I'm just going to introduce myself first and allow people to come into the chat. So we have Katina, Anna. Let me know where you're from. Thank you so much, Anna. Thank you for attending my webinars. I really appreciate it. So today we are talking about the leadership process, both the resume and the interview process. I own KathleenJasper.com. That is my name. But before I was running my own company, I was an assistant principal and I was on the track to become a principal. I decided that wasn't for me, because I wanted to run my own company. But I did go through the whole process you might be going through now. And so, I want to share some insights with you. I've also had the opportunity to interview assistant principals, and I've also had the opportunity to sit down with district leadership and pick their brain about what frustrations they have during the interview process and sort of what they're looking for and things like that. So I'm going to help you with that today. So come on into the chat. We have Chicago. Katina's from Chicago, Mississippi. Stacy, Elena, New Jersey, Dallas, Texas, DC. Awesome. Ocala, Florida, here where I am. Louisiana, Cody from Louisiana. Cheryl, Houston, Texas. Matthew, Las Vegas. So happy you guys are here with me today. Okay, so let's just get started. I'm going to give you a little background on why I'm doing this and why I have the insight to tell you this. I always make sure people understand my credentials. So it's not just some random person on the internet telling you what to do. I actually went through this process. So, I was a teacher in K-12 public schools here in Florida. I started in, I think it was 2007 as a permanent sub, and I was coaching cross country and all that. I became a regular teacher, went through the whole process like many of you have, the certification exams, the extra coursework, the whole thing. And soon after that, I started eyeing the assistant principal job. I had a really amazing assistant principal at my school. I just really looked up to her and I just thought what she did was great. And I really just wanted to do what she did. Around my third year of teaching, I got the opportunity to go and work downtown as a curriculum master teacher, where we developed professional development, delivered professional development district-wide. So that gave me a lot of leadership experience that helped me later, a year later, get a job as an assistant principal. But before I could do all that, and this is probably your reality too, I had to get a master's degree from an accredited, certified educational leadership program. So many of you are working in states that require it to be a certified ed leadership program before you can become a leader in the schools. And then I had to interview and go through a whole writing process through the district. So I was employed in a very large district in Florida. We have, I don't even know how many students they have now, but we were like the 9th biggest district in Florida, which is big. And so in order to become an assistant principal, we had to go through a very rigorous AP pool process, which means we had to apply to get into the pool in order to then be invited to apply for the actual jobs. So the pool was, we had to do a writing assignment, timed writing assignment. We went to the district and they gave us some prompts and we had to write to them similar to what you do on the SLLA and the 5412. But there were like 5 or 6 of them you had to do. The second piece was the interview process, where you'd have to go into, I think it was 3 to 5 rooms. And in each room, there were 3 to 5 administrators firing questions at you. And you got a score. And if you reached the score, you were then pulled into the assistant principal pool. And then you could interview with a principal who was hiring an assistant principal. So there was a lot there. Now, some of you from big districts may have a similar process. Some of you from smaller districts and smaller states don't. You might just apply. But 9 times out of 10, you're still going to need that master's degree from a certified ed leadership program. If you are in public schools, now private schools can do what they want. I speak from the public school perspective. And the Other thing that you have to do is have at least 3 to 5 years teaching experience. Some states it's 3, some states it's 5. It just depends. You can't just go from your first year teaching to being an administrator in most states. And there's a reason for that. You have to have some experience at the classroom level, of course. So that was my experience. I loved it. I was never busier than when I was an AP. People think teaching, they're very busy. When I was an AP, I was 100 million times busier. I was on the bus ramp at 6 a.m. and I didn't go home at night until 10 or 11 or 12. I was a high school assistant principal. So we had football, we had soccer, we had baseball, we had basketball, we had drama. And those types of activities require us to be there. And so, and I was also very fortunate to have a principal when I was coming up allow me to sit in on, everything. So he opened the door, and when there was a crisis, he pulled me in and said, "You want to know what it's like? This is what it's like." If there was a master schedule being made, he pulled me in and said, "This is how you do it." I was fortunate enough to get those experiences, and I was able to communicate that in my interview. You may not. You may just have a few experiences that you've gotten from your internship, but I'm going to show you today how to take those small little leadership experiences and turn them into a really good interview. Okay. All right. So it looks like everybody's in here now. Let me just check on Facebook, make sure I'm live. I am. Let me check on YouTube, make sure I'm live. And I believe I am. Yes, I am. Okay. Awesome. Just wanted to make sure. All right. So let me know in the chat. And if you are in the chat, that means you registered for this webinar. If you're watching me on social media, it means that you are just there, and that's fine. But if you want the handouts and the things that I'm going to be giving you after this webinar is over, you may want to sign up for the webinar. You just click the link in the description wherever you're watching me, and you will be able to put your email in, and you'll get a follow-up email with the replay link and all the resources I talk about today. Okay. Those of you who are in the actual webinar, like Joanne, Rebecca, Yasmin, Judith, Juanita, Matthew, Antoinette, all of you, you will be getting a follow-up email from me as soon as this is over with the replay, so you can watch this again, and the documents I'm going to show you today for your resume, and some other tips and tricks and other things that we will be talking about. So just sit tight, watch me. You will be able to get everything after the webinar is concluded. If your internet goes out or something happens, don't worry, you can watch it later on demand. And if you are watching me in the future, you already have all this information, because when you signed up, you got an email with all of this stuff. Okay. All right. So let's get started a little bit here. First things first, I want you to understand where you should be coming from when you're talking about your resume and your interview. Okay. So what I want to show you here is, and remember, you're getting all the resources at the end. I didn't put anything for the sign up yet. You're going to get everything I talk about at the end of this webinar when it's over. I didn't have them ready yet, to be honest with you. And so now I have them, and you'll get them when the webinar is over. Again, if you're watching in the future after June 15th, 2024, you already have them. All right. So let me just share a couple things with you on this. So one place in which I want you to be familiar with is the professional standards for educational leadership. Now, some of you may already be familiar with this. And if you've taken my SLLA test prep for your leadership exams, you know all about these standards. But what I recommend, first things first, before we make a resume and before we even start thinking about interview questions, is to just read through this document here. Okay. Well, why? Why do I care about this? Well, because, and let me just go down to the actual standards. You're going to want to just have an understanding of what the national standards for leadership are, because this is where you should be coming from. You want to be in line with the mission and vision for the school. You want to, have core values with the school and the community. You want to use some of these buzzwords in your interview and on your resume. Now, when it goes down to more specific, where we get into those family and communities. Let's go here. Like operations and management, right? So operations and management is a lot about the building, right? So this is about, safety protocols, things like that. And It's always aligned to the mission and vision, but you want to be strategically managing staff resources. This is about budgeting, scheduling. So what I recommend you do is just download this document. We're going to put a link to it in the follow-up email, so don't worry about that. You can also just Google PSELs, Professional Standards for Educational Leadership, and just kind of get to know these good words in here. I always talk about good words on your test prep. There's going to be good words you're going to use on your resume and in your interview. So the same thing goes here. You have here comply with and help the local school community understand local, state, and federal laws, rights, policies, and regulations. This is a big deal for an administrator because even in the day-to-day, you want to be protecting students' rights. You want to be taking your responsibilities very seriously. You want to be in line with district and state policies. So all of this might come up in the interview. So just get to know this document. No need to memorize anything or write everything down or anything like that. It's just get this in your brain. Start thinking about this. And if you have not taken your leadership exams yet, the SLLA 6990, the 5412, or whatever exam you're taking in whatever state you're in, you should be referencing this document because these good words and phrases are in the correct answers on the exam. Now, we're not doing an exam webinar today, but I just want to plug that because this will help you in all areas of leadership, okay? And if you are a new teacher and you're just kind of thinking, do I want to be a school leader? This is a great document to start. This is where you can figure things out and where we are looking, okay? Now, beyond that, of course, what I did was I Googled a assistant principal job description in Google, and a bunch came up, and I got this particular document here. And this is for a specific school district. I'm not going to share their name here because it's for their school district. But you can see here that they have all, and let me just zoom in so you can really see. There we go. They have all of the essential duties here. So we have serve as an instructional leader by monitoring implementation. What does that mean? That means we are consistently looking at data to see if programs are working, if professional development is working, right? We don't just implement things, we analyze data and we see if it's working. We see if we need it first, doing a needs assessment. Do we need this specific type of professional development? And then we monitor its implementation. These are things you want to be thinking about in the resume and in the interview, okay? School-wide, here's something very important here, and I'm going to talk about this several times. One of the biggest mistakes I made as a person interviewing for the leadership position is when I got nervous in that panel interview that I told you guys about in the beginning where I had to go in and interview in front of like all of district leadership, I leaned on my classroom because that's where I was most comfortable, right? That's where I had the most experience. And when I got nervous, I went to things that I did in the classroom without even knowing it. And they weren't looking for that. They were looking for school-wide. So when you are interviewing, you need to make sure your lens gets bigger here. Your scope of impact is bigger. We're not talking about your classroom. You might be a fantastic classroom instructor. However, we're not looking for a classroom instructor. We're looking for a building-wide, school-wide educational leader. So you're going to have to zoom out. And I'm going to tell you more about that in just a little bit. Okay. So you might have school-wide in terms of attendance and truancy. This is a task that a lot of principals give their interns. Monitor truancy, monitor attendance. This is stuff, kind of the low-level admin that you would do if you are, just starting. Safety, this might be policies in terms of, the fire drill and things like that. Then we have create partnerships with parents in the community. Now you might be like, well, I just started. How did I do this? Are you a coach? Are you a band leader? You have engaged with parents in the community. Even my daughter's cheerleading coaches, they're doing a lot of this right now. They are getting parents on board. They're getting their cheerleaders on board. They're working with the community for sponsorships and they're working with vendors. So start to think about these ways in which you did this. You don't have to be a principal already to get this. Remember, you are entry level. And so your leadership is going to be on the track, on the track, on the football field, in the cheerleading gym, things like that. You are working with parents. You are working with the community. Again, we're not just in our classroom. Now we're building wide. You have students from all different grade levels in your sport. You're working with their parents. You're working with the vendors in the community. You're booking, other events at different gyms and different, tracks and fields and things like that. You are also doing fundraisers, right? If you've ever led a fundraiser, that is leadership. You are reaching out to the community. You are soliciting money. You're trying to get money, and you are allocating budgets to your program. So again, this does not have to be, I'm already an assistant principal. This can happen within what you're doing right now. You just have to take a leadership mindset. Okay. Of course, instructional and assessment strategies. This could come through your PLCs. This could come through your department meetings. But again, it needs to be school-wide. So maybe you and another teacher did some common assessments that worked with several classes, right? In your PLCs, maybe you led an initiative to draw up common assessments and look at achievement data and kind of lead the charge. Remember, you led the charge. It's hard in these interviews because you have to say, like, I did this thing. I led the people to do this thing. That's what they want you to do. Most of the time in education, we speak in we's, right? We did this, we did that. During this interview, you need to use I because they want to know what you did. So kind of train yourself when you're driving in the car. Talk about yourself a little bit and use the I pronoun so that you can convey to the interview panel that you did it, right? Address building management concerns. Now, here's something that I got when I was first becoming an assistant principal in my internship. My principal allowed me to help him go over the plans for a new baseball field and new bathrooms. This was huge. In fact, I learned so much about new bathrooms, the custodial staff, what they go through. So just really quick, and I'll just share this with you so that you can think of this on your own. Like, think of these things to what's going on in your own life. So and this is a great example for you to convey to people. So I had the opportunity to be on, be next to my principal when he was building a new baseball diamond and new bathrooms. And there was like a whole new snack area and things like that. And one of the things I learned was how to build bathrooms for a school. Now, you never think of this until you're actually in a leadership position, right? Nobody thinks about the bathroom. You just go in the bathroom and you use it and then you walk out, right? But as a principal, as an assistant principal, I learned so much. So number one, we got the plans, and there were, like, in the boys' bathroom or the men's bathroom, there were 8 water closets, meaning that they had the door to shut behind them, like the toilet and the door, right? There were 8 of those and 2 urinals. And my principal, he's such a building manager. He was so good at the building and like logistics. He was a master at it because he had been doing it for like 20 years. He's like, "What is this?" And I was like, it's the bathroom. I just brought him the plans. And he said, "Why do I have 8 water closets in the men's bathroom and 2 urinals? I need 10 urinals and maybe 1 water closet or 2 water closets," right? Because the men's bathroom is like, they go in, they use the bathroom, they go out. They're not shutting the door behind them in the water closet, so to speak. Now, the women's bathroom is different. The women want a door. They want to go in there, and shut the door. But in the men's, they don't want to do that. And so that really shaped me. It's like, oh my gosh, there are so many ways you have to think about this building wide, right? The other thing was, this was something I'll never forget, and I'll never look at a bathroom the same way again. The toilet paper in the baseball diamond or field new bathrooms, in those water closets, he's like, "Put that toilet paper up high, like way up high here." And I was like, "Why?" And he's like, "Because the boys will pee all over the toilet paper if you give them an opportunity." And I was like, Oh my, I didn't think of that. And so he's thinking of the custodians, right? He doesn't want his custodians to have to clean up because you have a school with 2,000 kids. We were high school. They do things they're not supposed to do, and one of them is that. And to mitigate that, you have to think ahead. You have to think about what's going on. The same thing with here's another example for building wide leadership. I was tasked with helping to set up for prom, and I had it all set up, all nice. I had the table where people checked in and everything was decorated. It was so nice. And I was like, so proud of my moment, right? Oh, my principal's going to be so happy with this. He walks over. He's like, what's this? And I'm like, it's the table. Do you like it? There's a tablecloth, our name, the school name. It's got lighting, the whole thing. And he's like, Jasper, they're coming in this door. They're coming in that door. They're going to hit this table. There's going to be a bottleneck. And now I got 800 seniors all jabbing each other with elbows, misbehaving in the hall. And, it's all jumbled up here. You got to have them move through to move the line to make it go. You've got the table too far in the front. And I never would have thought of that. He was a master at that kind of logistics. So where you have had these insights, collect them, write them down, because they will come up in the interview and give you an opportunity to convey those. Okay. So right now, I want to talk about the resume first, and then we're going to jump to the interview. Now, I just published a brand new interview course with 2 hours worth of specific questions and what I would say in the interview and how you can mold it and all of that. It's a much longer course, and I'll show you where to get that, and that'll be included in the email. But the resume, you can use everything I say today and just write your resume. The interview is really where you need to shine. The resume should look really good and should be tailored to your specific skills, and it needs to be really good. But the interview is where you really need to convey, like, I am a leader, I can do this job. Okay. So let's go ahead. And first, I'm going to just share my screen with you and show you a couple of things. So, okay, first thing I did was, again, I went and I Googled assistant principal job description, right? And when I did, I got all this really good stuff here. Okay. Now, here's what I recommend you do. I recommend using ChatGPT to help you with your resume. All right. So let me just go to here. Okay. So I have created, it's making me sign in. Well, it's fine. It's not making me. I've created this resume prompt and cover letter and everything for you. So all you have to do is, this is what I did. I took the essential duties and responsibilities and created this prompt here. All right. And this is my prompt for ChatGPT. You are applying for a job as an assistant principal of a middle school. Put high school, put elementary school, put whatever you want there. The job description is below. So you can see here is the job description. Please draft a 1-page resume summarizing your work experience using the skills mentioned and the job description below. Oh, it says above. I need to edit it in a minute. And please leave out the objective statement. Okay. We don't need the objective statement. I know that if you're applying for an assistant principal position, your objective is to be an assistant principal. Don't waste up valuable real estate on your resume here. And then what I did was I went online and I grabbed some really good assistant principal job descriptions: implement and monitor school-wide behavior expectations and policy, create partnerships with the community, implement instructional assessments, supervise building staff, resolve student issues. These are all things that people need in an assistant principal. You can add more or less. Supervise athletic events. Oops, and this one should be attend special education staffing. Then I have this little area here for you to put your work experience. Now let me show you what I did here. Okay, so here's what I did. I've got all of this here. And then let me zoom in just a little bit. I'm going to put this below. Please leave out the objective statement, period. Okay. Then I just put in some work experience here. Now, listen, if you've been a teacher for a really long time, you don't have to put every single teaching gig. Okay. What they're looking for is your leadership experience, right? So it's kind of like, if you're trying to be a teacher, would you put every single, job since you were 12 years old on the resume? No, you're going to want to put in the most relevant. So you're going to start with your assistant principal internship, or if you are like a lead teacher right now, or whatever your leadership is. And then, go down and maybe grab 1 or 2 years as a teacher. But what you want to do is you want to lead with this, right? And of course, you want it to be most recent first, right? So with this one here, the one that you're getting, you're going to have enter your work experience here. I just highlighted it. Just put, what you did and what school. As you can see here, I put assistant principal internship, ABC Middle School, Greenville, North Carolina, and the year 2023. Okay. And then I just put like 3 bullets here. I did discipline in this internship. I followed the student code of conduct, and I analyzed and organized data for the principal. In an internship, you're probably not going to have a whole lot. You know what I mean? And then maybe you're the lead teacher or a peer teacher, or maybe the testing coordinator, or maybe you are, this is what you have. You have this internship experience here. And then after that, you've been a teacher. Okay, fine. But maybe as a teacher, you've led professional development. You've run department meetings or PLC meetings. You've helped with district testing. Anything you've done that's leadership, throw it in there. Okay. And then here, I just put 7th grade math teacher, obviously, whatever. Now, what I do is I grab all this. You are applying for a job as an assistant principal in a middle school. I like to tell ChatGPT who it is. You are a person applying for a leadership position. Okay. And all of that. So then I grab all of this here, and you can do the same. I recommend you go in here, zhuzh it up, put your own stuff in there. And then what I did was I went into ChatGPT and I pasted it. You just post it right here. This is the cheap ChatGPT 3.5. I pay for ChatGPT because I use it a lot. I love this tool. And I just post it in there. Notice you are applying for a job. Here's the position, blah, blah, blah. Here's the essential duties. You can't do bullets, but ChatGPT can read this without the bullets. It's fine. All right. And then it did this. Okay. It gave me this, and it was okay. You can see here, professional experience, process discipline referrals, organized data, blah, 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 right? It doesn't look great. This is where you got to get good at ChatGPT. And it says, this resume highlights your relevant experience. And I say, okay, can you elaborate a little more in the professional experience section so it reflects the essential duties and responsibilities of the job description, please? And I always tell it, please, because let me zoom in. I feel like when I say please, it gives me better stuff. Okay. So what I want it to do is go back into here and use this as its kind of light, its guiding light to make my resume. And when I did, I got a much better resume. And here it is. Assistant principal internship, spearheaded the implementation of professional development initiatives by overseeing the planning and execution of classroom and grade level content area meetings. In my resume, or in my prompt, it said led PLCs. Well, notice how nicely this said, spearheaded the implementation of professional development by overseeing the execution of classroom and grade level content area meetings, ensuring alignment with district goals. Doesn't that sound so much better than I led my PLC? So much better. Manage school-wide behavioral expectations and policies. That sounds a lot better than I was an intern and I processed referrals. This is school-wide behavioral expectations. Now, notice here, resulting in a 10% decrease in unexcused absences. Listen, that may not be true. Okay, this is why ChatGPT is great, but you have to go in and zhuzh it up and make sure that it doesn't include this. Because if this isn't true and you put it on your resume, you're lying on your resume. So we don't want to do that. But we could certainly use this, manage school-wide behavior expectations and policy, including attendance monitoring and truancy interventions, period. We would take this off, okay? Unless it's true. Maybe you did reduce it. If so, you can leave it. If not, take it off. Maintain partnerships with parents and community through regular communication. Utilize student achievement data to drive instructional and assessment strategies. Notice that it's all very AP-minded here, okay? And ChatGPT did it for me. Now, lead teacher, led professional development, fostering a culture of continuous improvement. These are the good words, okay? And then we have PLC meetings, collaboration, sharing of resources, performance data. All this stuff is good. And then, of course, my 7th grade math teacher implemented rigorous 7th grade math curriculum. These are good words for math teachers. Employing differentiated instruction. You know that this is all over my study guides. Everything I publish is all about differentiated instruction. Student-centered learning experiences. All of this is good, right? So then what I did was, let me just make sure. Okay, let me zoom out a little bit here. Let me share this tab. So then what I did was I threw it into my Word document here. So up at the top, for me, this is what I'm going to tell you, and everybody's different on how they want to do the resume, but you should put your certification at the top, because if you're applying for an assistant principal position, we need to know that you have the certification. So educational leadership, all levels. This is the way it's done in Florida. You get the educational leadership, all levels, which means I can be an AP at elementary, middle, or high school. Some states have different certifications for different levels. I got the all levels one because I wasn't sure where I was going to go. I ended up at a high school, but because that's where I'm most comfortable, but it all depends, right? And then I go straight into professional experience. Please don't put an objective. No one cares. We know if you're giving me a resume to be an assistant principal, I know what your objective is. Okay. And I'm going to give you access to this whole document. So don't worry about copying all this down. And then it might be a little more than a page. I like a page, but this is assistant principal. It's a little bit different, but please don't make it any more than a page and a half. Like, this is enough here. Okay. We do not want 5 pages. I know that as interviewing people, I do not want you to give me a rendition of War and Peace for your resume. This is a way to get into the door. Okay. Now notice I have this here highlighted because I would take this off. I would take off this little piece here because it may or may not be true. So make sure you read it. Don't put things on there that you didn't do. And listen, if you take off half of this, it's okay. You are entry level. It's an internship. This is one of the frustrations that I heard from educational leaders at the district level, interviewing prospective assistant principals. The people in the interview, the prospective assistant principals, were trying to come at it as if they had already been a principal, and they were trying to do too much when the district leadership knew that they were entry level. You know what I mean? And so, like, you're not going to have solved the problems of education at your internship. You're there to support the principal. You're there to support the admin team. So even if you don't have all of these bullets here, even if you have 3 to 5 really good ones, you're fine. I just have a lot here for you to look at. Okay, remember. So this is the resume, and then the cover letter. A lot of people want a cover letter. Sometimes it's required. So then what I did was I went back to ChatGPT, and I just said, please draft a 1-page cover letter that showcases my experience and interest in this assistant principal position. ChatGPT already has the job description, and it already has what I put in as my experience. Now I want a 1-page cover letter, and it did it. But here's the thing. Let me go back to my cover letter. ChatGPT is very wordy. It needs to do less. So you can see this highlighted area. I am writing to express my enthusiastic interest. No, just say, in my recent role as an AP intern at ABC Middle School, I gained valuable experience in instructional leadership, school management, stakeholder engagement. The principal is busy. They don't need this. Take it off. Be direct. I was an intern, and now I want to be an assistant principal, and here's what I have to offer you. I know that you are interested because you're writing this. I don't need you to tell me. All right, so delete that. Then I would also delete this. Encloses my resume, which further details my professional background. Yes, I know it's enclosed. You wrote me the email and the attachment is there. Okay. Just say thank you for considering my application, or thank you for my consideration. Make sure your cover letter is just, focused on what you know how to do. And I also like to add, I'm particularly drawn to the school's name. So if you're applying with a certain principal, reputation for, the arts, reputation for innovation and community engagement. Find something that the school is known for, and there's always something, and put it in here. That helps the principal know that you are serious about this. And principals love to talk about their schools. It's like their children. Okay. They are at these schools 24/7. The school is their baby. And if you go in and you find a little morsel of something that you want to talk about in your cover letter and then later in your interview, it's going to go over really well with the principal. Okay. Now, if you're entering an AP pool like I did, you may not write this letter. This would come later, right? So I had to submit a resume, I had to do a writing assignment, and I had to do a panel interview just to get into the pool. Then I could send my resume and cover letter to an actual principal. So we had a lot more steps. You may just go straight to the principal. That's fine. Use this. All of this works. Remember, check your chat GPT. Don't put in things that are not true, and get this fluff out of here. No, thank you. It's just like, ugh. Okay. And now we're going to talk about the interview prep. And I'm going to talk about this right here for you now so you understand a few things. This is at the end of the document. And again, you're getting the document when this webinar is over. And if you're watching in the future, you already have this document. Okay. So just follow along with me. You'll get everything right here. Okay. So, one more thing. When you get the document, it's going to look like this. The link is going to take you here. Copy document. Why? Because I don't want you editing my document. I want you to just look at, if you edit my document, that means everybody is going to end up with what you edited. So you click this thing here. Once you get the link, you're going to click make a copy. When you do, now it's on your own Google Docs. And now you can go in and put in your experience and all of that, okay? Because people are like, I can't edit it. Of course you can't. It's for everyone. Make a copy, and I'm going to force copy. That means the link you get in the email is going to force you to make a copy, because otherwise we get a bunch of requests. I can't edit it. And it's like, you got to make a copy. You got to download it. But this is just takes those steps out, okay? So that's that. All right, so let me go into some questions here. Okay, so people are asking a little bit about, more on the interview and stuff like that. And somebody's asking, what is Chat GPT? Okay, let's break down Chat GPT. Chat GPT is AI. It is an amazing tool. Some people think it's cheating, but people thought that about the calculator and people thought that about Google. And so if we can learn to use AI in a way that helps us become even better, I am here for it. I happen to love ChatGPT, and I think more educators should use it. Now, everybody's philosophy is different. And like I said, you can't just copy directly from ChatGPT and put it in a resume. You need to zhuzh it up. You need to make it your own. So be careful. It's a great place to start. So ChatGPT is a website. There's a link on the document you're going to get from me. Click it. It's free. I buy it. I have the Mac Daddy kind that has all the bells and whistles, but the free 3.5 will help you with this resume. Why spend 4 hours on a resume when really you should be working on your interview prep? Okay, so just use the Chat GPT. Make your life easier. For teachers, it's wonderful for lesson planning. It's wonderful for writing prompts, generating writing prompts. I can't tell you, as an English teacher, I used to sit there for hours trying to figure out writing prompts. Now we have Chat GPT. Take that stuff off people's plates. Use it, use it, use it. Okay. I have a CV that has more than one page trimmed in 4 pages. How do I reconcile that? Okay, Eric. Okay. I would trim it down. I would just focus on leadership. I know it looks like you have a law degree and you are a PhD candidate. I know it's important to showcase your skills, but you want to focus your resume on just what is being asked of you. Sometimes when we do too much, it can hinder us and it can just be a little too much, right? So what I would do is, we're not doing a CV, we're doing a resume geared towards the job description of an assistant principal. So I would trim it down as much as possible. The other thing that people talk about here is, I was a researcher before becoming a teacher. I have a PhD and lots of publications. Should I mention this on my resume? Okay. The thing that the district is looking for is an educational leader. Now, it is very important that you are able to convey your expertise, right? But we don't want to just include things for the sake of including them. You will hopefully be able to talk about that in your interview. And if you have a PhD, I would definitely put that in the education. Let's go back to my leadership resume really quickly. Let me share screen because I forgot to mention that really quickly. Hang on. Make sure you put your education here and put in your PhD and all of that. Now, if you are not a PhD yet, do not put it in education. I have a doctorate and I know how hard it is to get a doctorate, and I know how hard it is. Just the coursework is a lot, but you do not have a doctorate, a PhD, and EDD until you've defended a dissertation and have the document in your hand. So don't put it under your education. That's something that can come up later as like in the interview. It's a way to work it in. Hey, I'm in a PhD program in educational leadership. I'm anticipating graduating in 2025. But if you do not have the credential yet, don't include it yet. That's just my opinion. I've heard a lot of educational leaders talk about it just in passing. I'm just kind of sharing some things with you. It's kind of like, they're not there yet. Why put it on the resume? The resume is about what you have done, what you have accomplished, what you know. All right. So you can just put that there, put your degree there. And you don't have to go back so much. I mean, you could go back your bachelor's. They may want to know your bachelor's, like what you got that in. But remember, if you have a master's or a PhD, you definitely want to put that at the top there. Okay. And then your certification for sure. All right. So I just wanted to go over that. And yes, it's important to talk about your research, but is it about leadership? Include it. If it's not, then I wouldn't include it. You may want to have that as a talking point during your interview. What do you put in it if you have never been a leader? What work? Okay, so now we're going to talk about that. Okay, Cody is asking a really good question. What do you put in it if you've never been a leader? So you probably have been a leader. Now, if you are applying for an assistant principal position, most of you hopefully have experience as a teacher, have had experience in department meetings, have had experience in testing, have had experience as a coach. You've had some of these experiences, and hopefully you have a master's in educational leadership, or I know Eric, he's a PhD candidate, and Anna, you're a PhD. So possibly you have those in educational leadership, or you're getting them in educational leadership or administration or whatever. You want to get those experiences and put them kind of in a little box that you can open and pull from. This is very important. Now, if you are already an assistant principal right now and you're trying to become a principal, you've got so many of these. Okay. So I'm going to do both right now. Okay. So let's say we're in the interview. I want to make sure that I have 3 to 5 things to pull from to be a leader. Okay. So I want you to write these down on a piece of paper or wherever, put them in your notes on your phone. Have you ever been a coach? If you've been a coach, you've been a leader. Like I said before, you've had to work with student athletes and their parents and the community. You've had to manage and allocate resources, so budgets for your own sport. You've had to buy equipment. You've had to reach out to community members to either rent their facilities or get their support. You've had to manage expectations of the community. So make sure you put those down and frame them in there. You've also used data to make decisions. You're using qualitative data where you are looking at student performance on the field or wherever. You're putting people in positions that is going to really help your team. You're being strategic. Okay. So if you've been a coach, you've been a leader. All right. Another way in which you might have been a leader, if you've been a department head, that is another way in which you've allocated resources, right? Each department has a little pool of money, or each grade level team. Let's say you're not a department head because that's a high school, middle school thing. Maybe you're a team leader. Okay. That is allocating resources, leading groups of teachers. Anytime you've led a group of teachers, have you administered a faculty meeting? Have you stood up to give a presentation about math data or reading data? Are you a reading coach? Have you helped train other teachers in reading strategies? Anytime you have pulled away from your classroom and your scope of impact has gotten bigger, where you are dealing with the community, other teachers, more students, not just your classroom. Maybe you supervise the lunchroom. That's leadership. I did that for many years as an assistant principal. The lunchroom is leadership. If you've ever instructional coach, Latanya, absolutely. Coach, anything with the word coach in it. Who are you coaching? You're coaching teachers. You're coaching parents. You're using data to make instructional decisions. Okay. Really, really important. So that's my first thing that I would do if I was getting ready to kind of convey my leadership experience, especially on the resume as well. You may not have this whole thing of worked on the master schedule. You may not have had that opportunity. If you do get that opportunity, I highly recommend it because it will blow your mind. The master schedule is like the Matrix. It's crazy. So if you have an opportunity to do that, I learned a lot through that process, right? But let's say you helped with discipline. Okay. All you did was process referrals. Well, what are you doing when you process referrals? You're supporting education in the building. You're supporting teachers in the building. You are pulling student data because what do you do when you process a referral? You pull attendance, you pull grades, and you pull referral data, right? You are also following protocol because there's a student code of conduct. You are following district protocol or state protocol, depending on what happens there. So dig down into these experiences and figure out where you can pull from. Now, you may be asked different questions, but what you want to do is have 3 to 5 experiences that you can access. For mine, when I did it, I led PLCs, professional learning communities. So that was my go-to for a lot of answers to questions in my interview. Why? Well, a PLC happens to satisfy the data analysis part of being a leader, right? Because in a PLC, you're pulling school-wide data or department-wide data or team, first grade team, second grade team, whatever data. And then you're analyzing it as a group and making decisions. Then you're implementing that and you're engaging in action research. So all of that is leadership. You are also, especially if you're leading the PLC, you are making sure the team or the group of teachers is adhering to norms. That's part of the leadership standards, is presenting norms to a group of people. Okay. And that's really important. So PLCs, leading a PLC, leading a department, even if you had the opportunity to share out to the staff something you did, let's say you did a really good PLC and you had gains in the math department and the principal asked you to convey that to the math team. That's leadership. Anytime you're standing in front of a group of teachers and you're helping guide them, that's leadership. Okay. Equity lead, Ellen Pearson. Thank you so much. Equity lead. Equity is huge in schools. How do you be culturally responsive? How do you ensure that each student is getting equitable access to everything? That is huge right now. So if you're the equitable lead, you're also pulling data. You're pulling demographic data. You're sharing that data with other teachers, right? You are helping teach teachers how to use those strategies to connect with their own bias, to check their bias. You are encouraging them to probably engage in some professional development around those issues. So really, really important there. Lead teacher for extended school day and summer school. Yes, core, for sure. Summer school, that's where I got a lot of my leadership experience. It's kind of a throwaway to the principal because the principal's busy doing all kinds of other things. The summer school, even if you're walking into a classroom and you say to a teacher, do you need anything? That's leadership. You're supporting the teacher. Okay. I am a paraprofessional in New York City. I have my MSW and looking to change my title to a school social worker. All right. Well, this is more towards assistant principal. I don't know the process of school social worker, but you would need some leadership in that as well, because you're going to be leading families and things like that. I have been a coach, baseball at the collegiate level and fast pitch softball at high school level, and athletic director, and led more than 60 soldiers in the Army. Okay, well, Eric, then you definitely have leadership. That is definitely something. Now, here's something I would caution you, and I do say this to my military people. Schools are different than the military, and I'm sure you know this, Eric, but with schools, especially discipline, a lot of schools are moving towards positive behavior supports. The research supports it. I know a lot of people think it's kind of fluff, and these kids today don't understand the struggle and all of that, but the research supports this. We want to come from a place of empathy and understanding and communication. Maybe that's the way it is in the Army. I don't know. I've never been in the Army, but just amp up the inspiring soldiers to do things for you and bring down the fear and intimidation, if you can do that. Yes, restorative justice for sure, Eric. So I always tell people, because we get a lot of people from the military who come into public schools, which is awesome because they have such an awesome perspective. But in interviews and dealing with children, students, we want to kind of move away from the drill sergeant and more into the inspiration piece, which military leaders are awesome at doing. Field trip organizers for all fourth graders. Yes, Tracy. That, oh my God, I can't even imagine. I was a high school assistant principal. I can't imagine fourth graders, all the fourth graders. That would be crazy. So, and amp that up. You could even chop that up into several different ways. So first of all, that is, if they ask you, when did you reach out to the community, or when do you build your relationships with the community? Well, field trips are like not something we do much anymore because there's no money, there's no access and things like that, right? So you had to reach out to some part in the community for your fourth graders to go to, right? You also had to follow safety protocols because they had to do their permission slips and make sure everybody's safe. You're putting them on buses. You had to coordinate with transportation to make sure the buses were there for you guys. You had to coordinate with parents, maybe a local deli to feed the kids. You had to report back to your principal. You probably had to collect a little data to see if it was successful or not. I know it's kind of annoying. It's like, can't we just go on a field trip? Do we have to collect the data? Yes, we do, because is it aligned to the standards? Is this field trip going to enhance their learning and understanding? All of that is really important. So you could probably chop that field trip organizer up into several realms. Okay. All right. So one of the things that I want to make sure you kind of understand here is for the last part of this process is I want you to think as a data-driven instructional leader. That is what the panel is going to want to know. All right. Now, again, you're entry level. So your data-driven instructional approach is not going to be that I pulled the data for reading and I implemented reading programs and I solved the reading problem at our school. That's not going to happen. That's probably not even going to happen as a principal. You're probably never going to solve the reading deficit at a school. Okay. But what you might have done is your principal asked you to pull the reading data for all fourth grade or for the whole school or whatever, wherever you are, right? And then your task was to disaggregate the data, organize the data, and then bring it to your principal so the principal could make a decision. That is entry-level leadership. That is data-driven, and that is supporting the school goals, right? So if you are entry-level, it's okay to say, my job at that point was just to figure out the most important data pieces and hand it to my principal because she or he was very busy and didn't have time to do that. And I'm really good at data analysis and making it all like visual so the person can see it. And then my principal was able to make decisions based on my data analysis. 100% leadership. Not only did you pull data for the whole school, but then you provided your principal something to help impact the whole school. So very, very important there. Another thing is, not everything is perfectly wrapped up in a bow as a perfect scenario in a leadership interview. Okay. One thing that some of the district leadership told me that was very frustrating for them was the tendency for candidates to paint the rosiest picture in the whole entire world of their leadership skills. It was always like, I did this. I was able to overcome that and everything worked out perfectly. And we know as leaders, that is not what happens. So another thing that's okay to talk about is that you tried something and it failed. That's okay. So you might want to, I'll give you an example. I've done this. I've failed a million times. Okay. So like I just told you about the, I was in charge of the homecoming setup entryway, and I had looked at all the things that we were supposed to do. I knew we needed to check in. So I set up a table at the front of the gym, and I had everything set up. And when my principal came in, I realized that I had not planned properly, that there was going to be a big bottleneck of students, could have caused behavioral issues, blah, blah, blah. So I analyzed that situation, which is analyzing the data, and I fixed it for a better situation. Now, let's say I didn't fix it beforehand. Let's say that all the kids showed up and it was just a total cluster, right? You can say that in an interview. Like, I thought it was going to be great. I collected the data. I looked at everything. I worked with another teacher. We implemented it and it just fell flat. And I realized that it fell flat because I didn't train my group of teachers properly. I didn't give them enough explicit instruction to execute the plan, or I didn't put the table in the right spot, or I didn't anticipate the number of students we would have. I thought we would only have 500, but we ended up having 900, right? And so what I did was I looked at that mistake and I collected the data on it, because that's basically what you're doing. I analyzed it and made sure next time to implement that, and it was much more successful. That's called resiliency in leadership, because 9 times out of 10, you're going to fail in leadership. It's not a success story every turn. And when you become an assistant principal or principal, you will know failure is like just a constant. So it's okay to convey, like, I worked so hard on this thing and I did this and did that, and I put it out there and it flopped. And now I know why it flopped. It flopped because I didn't do blank or blank. So next time I implement it, that's going to be at the forefront, those two things. Maybe it's training and maybe it's organization or something like that. And so when I have the opportunity to do it again, I'm going to do it. Or maybe you had the opportunity to do it again and you implemented it and it turned itself around, whatever it is. So that's really important. Yes, falling forward, totally true. And you don't have to do it with everything. I'm not saying like you have to just be a failure your entire interview, but it's cool to pepper some failures in there as well and show how you overcame that, because district leadership, other principals want to see resiliency. They want to see that when you fail, you're not going to crumble. You're going to use that information and make it better for sure. Okay. And again, you're entry level here. Now, if you're already an assistant principal, you're obviously going to pull from your discipline experience, your building level experience. You're going to amp it up, right? But if you are just becoming an intern, or you're just becoming an assistant principal, this is something to look for. The other thing is, if you are about to get into an internship right now, seek out these opportunities in discipline. Can I process some of your referrals? I guarantee you an assistant principal is going to go, sure, here's a stack of referrals. Please do that. Also, may I observe while you do the master schedule? And if you have an opportunity to observe during the master schedule, do not talk. Do not talk when they're trying to do the master schedule. You're there to observe. Even if you have an idea in that moment, unless asked, don't talk about it, because the master schedule is very stressful. So just observe and take notes. If you have the opportunity to lead a PLC, to lead professional development, to sit in on a committee, if you have helped with textbook adoption, if you have led the PTO, if again, coaching, any level, all of that is leadership. Collect those experiences, write them down, get 3 to 5 written down, put in there. When did I analyze data? When did I help lead other teachers? When did I allocate resources? When did I manage a budget? When did I reach out to the community? Okay. And again, not classroom. We're building wide now. We're school wide. We want to make sure that that's where we're coming from. And I'll tell you, I made that mistake. And one of the panelists, it totally derailed me. I was like so nervous. One of the panelists said, "This is all great here, Kathleen, but you're telling me about your classroom experience. We need to know your leadership experience." And I'm actually glad she did, because that was the first room I went into. The other 3 or 4 rooms, I was able to get it back. I made sure that I talked only about my leadership opportunities that I engaged in. I got rid of the classroom altogether. Had she not said anything, I would have continued in that way, conveying like how great of a teacher I am. They're not hiring a teacher, they're hiring a building administrator. Okay. All right. What other questions do you guys have? Let me just see here. School leadership. Make sure you check out those PSLs, look at those standards. I'll link them up in the email. Kemba, Carol, I am a high school teacher with multiple leadership roles, community school liaison, webmaster, community service coordinator, class sponsor. How do I add multiple leadership positions to my resume without going over 1.5 pages? You know, what we're interested in, so you could just use different ways in which, like, what I would do is lead with those, your most recent. So you're a high school teacher right now. I would make that the forefront. If you want to include everything in there, I would make that the majority of your resume and then just list your teacher roles, make them much shorter. So if you have a lot in terms of your community liaison stuff and your coordinator and class sponsor and all of that, you could make the majority of your resume that in the beginning and then just list your other teaching jobs, because that's what they're going to be most concerned about. But try not to be repetitive. You know what I mean? Like, as a school liaison and a community service coordinator, you're probably analyzing data to make decisions, right? So you may just want to list that once. You could put in the front, for this year, all the things you're doing, right? And then just list all the skills that you are using. So you could have whatever, you're a high school teacher. So let's say you're a high school English teacher. I don't know what content area you are, right? So high school English teacher, ABC high school, this is my city state, right? And then under it, you might list community coordinator, or community school liaison, community service coordinator, webmaster. And then under that, just all the things you do. Okay. You don't have to go overboard. I know a lot of people want to share everything. I get it. But remember, people are busy. You want to make the first look impactful. And when we get 4 pages, I got to tell you, it's just like, nobody has time. Just focusing on that stuff. Data-driven instructional leadership. Okay. When have you used data to make instructional decisions or help your principal make instructional decisions? When have you led the community or reached out to the community? You may, if you've got experience in special education and equity, cultural responsiveness, stuff like that, put that in there as well. How long should an interview response be? Tamika, awesome. Okay. One more thing. I recommend you use the STAR method. Now, you have to be careful with the STAR method because you don't want to sound like a robot, okay? The STAR method is situation, task, action, result. But what you don't want to do is go, the situation was, the task was, my action was, the result was, because you sound like a robot. And I've heard district personnel say they got this STAR method and they just speak that way. You want to keep it in your head though. You might want to say, like, let's just we'll do the situation, task, action, and result for, let's say I have one for the discipline. I had a situation in discipline. All right. So the situation was we were getting a ton of referrals the second semester of school. And, my principal was wondering what's going on here. Why is this happening? And so the principal asked me, here comes the task. The principal asked me to analyze the data and figure out what's going on. Right. So I went out and I pulled the discipline data and I noticed that a lot of these referrals were happening after lunch and they were happening with a specific group of kids. And so with the principal and with the other admin team, we decided to, and you want to say I have a hard time doing that. I decided to pull these students, bring them into my office and have a standing meeting with them every month or every 2 weeks where they come in, not discipline related, just to talk to me about their grades, their attendance, and what's going on at school. I know a lot about restorative justice. And I felt that if I could take an interest in these 10 kids and get them coming to me non-discipline related, that it would help to reduce their referrals in their reading classes. Okay. So each kid I called down to my office, I pulled their attendance and I pulled their discipline data. We sat down, we chatted for about 5 minutes. I didn't have a lot of time, 5 to 10 minutes. And then I made them put in their Google calendars on their phone a standing appointment with me. And I put it in my calendar as well for 10 minutes every 2 weeks. And every 2 weeks, the kids came in on their own time that was designated to them. I pulled their attendance, I pulled their grades. We had a chat about school, and lo and behold, their grades went up, discipline referrals went down just by taking a vested interest in these kids once every 2 weeks or once a month. They knew they were coming to see me, and this really helped to reduce discipline problems. Notice that I did the situation, task, action, result without saying the situation was, the task was, the action was, the result was, right? My principal was wondering why we were having all these referrals, what this phenomenon was. I was tasked with looking up the data and coming up with a plan. The action was, I pulled these kids in, we had a chat, then they came back every week or every 2 weeks, whenever I had time, whatever you want to say. And the result was referrals went down. Discipline referrals went down. Participation went up. It was great. That's a success one. It could be, didn't work. They still got written up every class. So back to the drawing board, but all of that works. Okay. So in your mind, think about situation, task, action, result. Try not to go on and on. I go on and on a lot, as you might have figured out by this interview. The other thing is this, very, very important. Please do not be negative in your interview. And you might say, well, of course I'm not going to be negative in my interview. You would not believe how many people I see, they get asked a question, and because they're nervous, they start to talk, and it starts to go into a negative story about a principal or a colleague. And before they know it, they're just going down this road and there is no turning back. Okay. You should never, ever in an interview be negative about anyone. I don't care if your former principal is the worst person in the entire world. Okay. Principals stick together. Why? Because it's a really hard job. Assistant principals stick together. Why? Because it's a really hard job. So if you're out there talking smack about principals and assistant principals, it is going to get back to the principal you are interviewing with. So please keep your mouth shut, even if you don't like your leadership team. Someday you're going to be on a leadership team, and they're not going to like you either. Trust me. Okay. So keep things positive, and in the interview, never say anything negative about a former employer, because it is a red flag and you will not get the job. If anybody says anything bad about their former principal, the principal is going to go, why would I put this person on my team? They're bad talking the AP. And again, you would say to yourself, well, I would never do that in an interview. But when you're nervous and you start going, just keep it positive. If you don't have anything nice to say about a former employer or former principal, just say, I learned so much from that experience, and I'm so grateful for that experience. Because you probably have. If it's a bad experience, you probably learned a lot about it. Okay? All right, so let's go back through the things we talked about today. And if you're late coming on, I see we had some new people come on. Make sure you watch the replay. You are going to get it in the email follow-up here, okay? First, you're going to use ChatGPT for your resume. It's a godsend. Just use it, okay? Don't fight it. Just use AI. If you want to write it yourself, do so. But I'm just saying, make it easy on yourself. Then for your interview, you're going to pick 3 to 5 things that you can do, okay? That you can call to, that you can use, all right? You're going to want to think about data analysis. You're going to want to think about community engagement. You're going to want to think about allocating resources and budgeting. We had, grade level chairperson for the team. We had a 4th grade field trip coordinator. Oh my God. That's just crazy to me. We have coaches, former military. You guys can pull from that stuff. If you're a brand new teacher and you're here just because you're interested in someday being an AP, welcome. You should be here. That's fantastic. Start to seek out opportunities in the school. Is there a testing coordinator position you want to get, or a helper, reading coach, regular coach, grade level team lead, PLC lead, department head, anywhere where you can get that leadership. Because remember, we're going to turn that into, these leadership opportunities. Okay. Now, beyond that, I just want to share some things with you because I have free resources, more with this, and also stuff happening. I just published this yesterday. I just finished this brand new course, school leadership interview course. In it, is 2 hours worth of specific questions that go with strategic leadership, instructional leadership, climate and cultural leadership, ethical leadership, organizational leadership, and community partnerships. There's 20 plus specific questions, both scenario based and general, that I go through here. It's really good if you're trying to figure out, what do I hone in on? What do I say? That goes here. And there are downloads. You can download the actual course questions, and then you can write notes on them as I'm talking. Obviously, as I'm talking, my experience is going to be a little bit different than yours, but you can listen to what I'm saying and then go, oh, you know what? I was a fourth grade coordinator for the what's it called? Field trips. And you might write all that stuff down. I go into detail about data analysis and how to really show the principals and the committees how you led as an entry-level person, and also as someone with experience, how to kind of hone that. Because a lot of us have this experience, but you gotta focus it. You don't want to just keep babbling on and on about things. So I do that in this course. It's $49.99, but there is an offer code for 15% off. And Yana has put that in the chat, and also it'll be in the email. Okay, so really important there. Beyond that, I have my YouTube channel. So I'm live there now. Oh, nice thumbnail with my eyes closed. But I also have, lots of subject area sessions. If you have teachers who need help, this is where you should send them. There are lots of videos here. I have the SLLA 6990 and 5412. This is all about that exam. You will have to take this exam to be a leader in most states. Other states have different exams. But they're all basically the same. If we go back here, I have lots of online courses and resources for all of that. Let me show you what the online courses look like so that, give me 1 second here. I'm going to show you what the leadership course looks like. So let me share this tab here. All right. So this is a course preview. When you start the course, you can see that there are just some intro, and then you can download the leadership questions. And then I have videos. I tried to keep them under 30 minutes. These are great for audio courses too. Like if you want to put your headphones on, I like audio courses, but you can see that we've got all the different things here underneath, and you can download them. I have like a wrap up and quick tips on certain things to think about as you're doing this. So this is really good there. Another thing that we have, let me just show you really quickly my other courses. Where's my SL? So we have some new audio courses for SLLA and the 5412. The audio courses people are really enjoying, which I think is awesome. I'm really into the audio courses. I love making them, and I'm super excited about them. In our online courses, like for this SLLA, this one's really good. This will help you pass the exam for sure. Many of you have done it already. But at the end, I have my audio course option here. And it is all of the different things broken down into just audio. So if you're in your car, if you're walking your dog, I love podcasts and things like that. So I started making these audio courses. You can also just get the study guides and the audio courses separately, but the online course really helps. So if you're still trying to pass exams, we have that. All right. Thank you for this very important information to help us with the leadership journey. Yes, indeed. Thank you so much. This is very informative. I appreciate your knowledge. Thank you, guys. Thanks for the information. Your SLLA course was awesome. D, if you took the SLLA course, you probably still have access to it because it never expires. If you buy my course, it never expires. So you can have it for as long as you want, right? If you have that, go back. If it'll help you with the interview, because I talk about like all the stuff, the data driven, the needs assessment, go in there and be like, how can I tweak this for an interview? If you don't want to buy another thing, if you want to save your money and you don't want to buy another thing and you've bought the course, go back in there and kind of be like, how can I mold this? Also the writing prompts in there, right? Like the writing prompts are specific leadership scenarios, right? And you have to kind of figure out what you're going to do as a leader. Great practice. So get back in there and kind of look around. It's going to help you with your interview. All right. So anyways, you guys, I wish you well. It looks like a lot of you got the SLA course and books, everything. Oh, thank you, LaTanya. I love that you guys love my products. I really appreciate it. My leadership courses are really near and dear to my heart because I was an AP. And I'm going to tell you, you've got it's going to be a lot of work, and it was a lot of work for me, and it was very rewarding, and it was hard. There's a lot of challenges as an AP, but if you can do it, I highly recommend you do it. Check out my new leadership course. It's only $49.99. It's for the interview. You've got my Chat GPT prompt. You're going to get that link in the email. Remember, you can edit it, use Chat GPT, and get your resume all fixed up. Try to get it down to one page. You can even here's one more thing quickly. Someone asked, how do I get my 4-page SV or CV into 1.5 pages? Copy and paste it into Chat GPT and say to Chat GPT, here's my very lengthy CV. Can you please make this 2 pages focused on this job description, and put in the assistant principal job description, and it will do it. It'll pull out the most important pieces and shave it down. And then you can ask it, okay, that's cool. Make sure you include this. You can keep asking it to make it better and better. I'm telling you, AI, so great. So great. Okay. Thanks for being our Yoda. That's funny. That's great. That really makes me happy. Thank you for that comment. I got in late, so I do appreciate the opportunity to revisit the webinar. Yes, Marie, if you're late, just hang on. In about 20 minutes, you're going to get an email with everything in it. Okay. So you'll watch on demand. You can do it. All right. Good luck, everybody. Thank you so much for engaging with me this Saturday. I know you can do it. Keep working, keep watching, get on those professional, standards and things like that. Really have a look at everything. And I'll be doing more in this area. So just be on the lookout for that. Let us know how you're doing. info@kathleenjasper.com. And you can also join our leadership Facebook group. Shoot, I forgot to show you that. Hang on. Leadership Facebook group right here. We'll put the link in the bio. So, or we'll put the link in the email, I should say. And there's all kinds of stuff, like people are sharing their dissertation work here. People are sharing different information. So, I highly recommend getting into this group. I'm in there helping and things like that. So we'll put a link to the Facebook school leaders group, when we send out the email. Okay. Sorry, I forgot to mention that. All right, everybody. Good luck. Have a great day and happy Saturday. Bye.